All right, guys. Phenomenal morning, phenomenal morning, phenomenal morning. This is Sean Wright East, and I am your host of the Breakfast with the Brand, your Breakfast with the Brand. As always, I am flanked by the phenomenal Bobby Jackson as well as Junior Frederick. Listen, guys, we almost there. Like there was a couple glitches this morning, but we almost there. I've been saying for the longest time, Instagram, work with us. I've been saying for the longest time, let us stream to Instagram. And we right there on the cusp of it. There's been some going back and forth. There's been some negotiations between StreamYard and IG. Let me tell you something, guys. It's 2024. In a couple of days, if you're not doing something new, I would say pattern yourself behind huge organizations that are looking to do something new and do something new. Brand new you. 2024 is almost here. Let's grow. How's everybody feeling?
Feeling amazing as usual, Sean. It's so interesting that you said that. 2024, I really and truly feel deeply that 2024 is a year of wealth. And I feel like the people that are going to tap into that wealth are the people that could recreate themselves, that could do something new, and that could sort of change their perspective and act quick enough. Like I started making plans for 2024 a couple weeks ago. So guys, don't wait until we get there, right? Don't wait until we get there to start making your plans. You should already have your plans, or at least, have something in mind for what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and most importantly, not what you want to achieve, but rather who you want to be. That's the most important thing. Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. From my side of the house, I was reading last night, and you all know we're copious readers, right? We're copious readers of books. And I was reading the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. And in there, it was talking about the price. You got to pay the price. So for me, I'm seeing 2024 as do more, do more, do more. And what he was talking about in the book was there's a price to success. And those teams that pay the price as a collective get the success. And he was talking about why certain teams fall off and why certain people are not as successful as they want to be over extended periods of time. And what he said was the price keeps getting higher the higher you go. He was saying that if you want to get to the next level of your potential, he was like, good teams rarely have a lack of potential. Good teams rarely know what they shouldn't be doing and do it. Like they know what they shouldn't be doing and they don't do the wrong things. Like they know that. The reason that they stop reaching their potential is simply because they stop paying the price. And he used not Procter and Gamble, but he used another, like a chain store back in the day that just could not get with the times. It was a catalog store. And then the Times was moved into what, like Sears department store type stuff. And they just wouldn't pay the price. So that's how I'm feeling about 2024. It's like, okay, I've recreated myself up into this point, and what's the next price? So I just want to put that out there for you guys. Because if you've been with the brand for any amount of time, you've been doing work. You've been grinding. You've been letting things go. You've been putting it on your back. You've been getting after it. So in 2024, what more can you do? What more can you give up to keep going up?
What more can you do? What more can you do? Listen, Bobby, we about to shift everything. Right? We about to shift everything. I am always self-disruptive. If you are not willing to disrupt yourself internally from inside forces, then you will be disrupted from outside forces. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. If you're not willing to disrupt yourself, then you will be disrupted. The only question is, do you want to be Blockbuster or Netflix in this game? Because Netflix disrupted themselves. They disrupted themselves and created an entire new industry. And those who were unwilling to disrupt themselves, in this case, Blockbuster, were absolutely wiped off the face of the planet Earth, like the dinosaurs were. Right? So the question is, will you be innovative and disruptive? or will you cease to exist and be disrupted from outside forces? Because disruption is not an option. That's not an option. Disruption is going to occur consistently. The only question is, will you be able to disrupt yourself? Will you have the discipline? Will you have the faith? Will you have the resources internally to disrupt yourself? Or will you be disrupted from outside forces? That's the question that I want to ask you guys before we go to the break. And I want you to think about that before we come back. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about disruption. We're going to talk about how to recreate yourself, how to recreate your identity for 2024. Because 2023, the old 2023 you will be able to operate no more. Let's grow. There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaways just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just a very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. All right, guys, I may have connected. I'm not really sure. We still, listen, I promise you, technology, you got to have the right psychology to deal with technology. We're going to see later. I think we might be present, though. If somebody wants to go ahead and toggle over, right, do a field trip experiment, do an acid test, toggle over to IG, and let me know if we're live, because I think we just might be. Let's grow. If you're not new, I promise you, the old you, the you that is old, will not be able to transition into 2024. You got to be young, you got to be fresh, you got to be innovative, and you have to be disruptive. Let's grow. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. When we talk about paying the price, I really love what Bobby said. As entrepreneurs, sometimes it could feel like, we're always grinding all the time. I know most of us here, we've been at it for several years. I myself can attest to that, and I feel as if sometimes at the end of several years, you really look back and you really look at all of the stuff that you've done, right? You look at all of the mistakes, all of the points of growth, all of the points where things decline, where things increased. And one of the things that came to mind actually when it comes to paying the price is the concept of what we call ignorance tax. So means
Ooh.
ignorance tax means you paying the price for not knowing. So put it in the chat. How many of you wish that you knew now, right? Back then you knew what you knew now, right? That's called ignorance tax. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we pay that tax, and the tax can be very hefty. Some of us make it, some of us don't, right? But what I really love and what I've been sort of embracing is this concept right there, which is that the work works on you more than you work on it. The work works on you more than you work on it. And I actually heard this from Alex Hormozy. He said that, and it really made me think. Let's just say if you've been in business for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, and you lose it all, it could feel like a waste of time. Or at the end of 5 years, you have nothing to show for it. It could feel like a waste of time. But if you change your perspective and you look at the person you've become, you look at the asset that you've created as the person you've become, rather than the things that you've attained, you realize that the work has worked on you more than you have worked on it.
Right.
So you, in the act of speaking, in the act of closing, in the act of marketing, you've grown as a person. So if a millionaire loses $1 million, it's easy to gain $1 million if you're a millionaire. So there's a saying, Sean, when a man with money meets a man with experience, the man with experience ends up with the money, and the man with the money ends up with the experience. So
Yeah, been there.
that's
Been
right.
there.
Guys,
Been on both sides of it.
exactly. So guys, like, what I really want you to embrace is the power of perspective. The power of perspective. So if you're heading into 2024 and at the end of 2023, you feel like you did every single thing that you could, but at the end of 2023, you still haven't hit those business goals yet. Maybe you haven't hit 7 figures, maybe you haven't hit, high 6 figures. Just remember that the work is working on you more than you are working on it. And as long as you keep moving, you keep growing, you keep, making those daily incremental progress. And something that has been working for me personally, Sean, is just setting those miniature goals, those tiny goals, and just doing every single thing I can to make sure that those tiny goals are completed. And when I say complete, I mean completed all the way through. Because something that we can be guilty of as entrepreneurs is starting 5 different initiatives and having them, initiative number one, 20%, initiative number two, 40%, initiative number three, 70%, initiative number four, 10%, initiative number five, 90%.
Sir. Yes,
And we feel,
sir.
we feel, we feel as if I'm doing 5 things at the same time. Man, let me tell you what I found for me, just personally. You may not be the same, you may be a little bit different, but what I found for me is that, starting one thing and finishing all the way through. Listen, at the end of 2 weeks, the amount of progress you can make just by finishing everything you set out to do is absolutely, absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. So if you're heading into 2024, I would encourage you to embrace the mindset of the work working on you more than you working on it. Set those small goals and do everything in your power to achieve those small goals. And I guarantee you, at the end of 2024, you will be a different person. And just to speak to that before I pass to Bobby, it said that it takes how many days to build a habit, Sean? How many days or how many weeks?
Well, there's a lot of different insights about that. Some would say as little as 21, but a lot of recent are saying more like 66.
Okay.
And I think I would agree more with the 66 piece, because the deeper the impression comes from repetition. Repetition deepens the impression. So I don't think 21 days is really going to help it take root permanently.
All right. So let's say 66. So here's what I'll say to everybody listening. I really and truly believe that it takes 66 days to build a new habit, but it takes 100 days to build a new identity. 66 days to build a new habit, 100 days to build an identity. So what I've decided to do, and what you could glean from this, if you so choose, set some goals for yourself for 100 days, for your your health, for your wealth, for your business. Set some things, set some new things that you're going to do. Maybe you're going to fast, maybe you're going to eat once a day, maybe you're going to work out twice a day, right? You get to choose. Maybe you're going to go down a certain path. Maybe you're going to study sales, maybe you're going to study marketing, whatever that may be. Okay, 100 days, I guarantee you, if you do something for 100 days, you become a different person. So 66 days to change a habit, 100 days to change your identity. Let's grow.
Let's grow. I love it.
Let's
Bobby,
grow.
what do you think?
Man, as I was listening to both of you all talk, it put me back in the weight room. And I've been a small guy, my whole life. I've been a pretty small guy. I joined the military at 128 pounds. And that's pretty small. And I got up to as heavy as about 194 pounds. But what I want to talk about today, as far as disrupting yourself, is something that I think a lot of us may be experiencing in our business, but don't know how to articulate the experience. So there's this thing called supersets. There's this thing called burnout. There's this thing called isolation. And I'm just going to share some analogies with you to kind of help you articulate what 2023 might have felt like for you. So whenever we're working out in the military, we purposely disrupt ourselves. So one thing that we're trained to do in the military is what we call scanning the terrain. So anything we do in the military, or as far as regular people reading, we do from left to right. So you read from left to right. When you go across the street, you probably look left and then look right. Most things we do from left to right. So what we're taught to do in the military is when you're out in combat zones, scan from right to left, because it tricks you. It makes you do it outside of it disrupts you. It disrupts you internally so that you're not disrupted externally. So if you're used to scanning left to right, then if you go into a foreign situation, scanning left to right, you might miss something, because the brain likes to do that. It likes to take shortcuts to conserve energy. So when you read and scan right to left, you already start doing things differently. So I open up that way to say this. When was the last time you disrupted your routine? We routinely read left to right. When you're working out, you do a routine: chest and tries, back and buys, legs and abs, shoulders and arms, right? You have your routine. And what we learn, and what you might be experiencing right now, is that you haven't shifted your routine in a while. What we learn is that I've been doing it this way and it's been effective, but what happens is the body is a beast. It's going to learn how to do it with the least amount of energy exertion. And that's a good and bad thing. It's a good thing because you're stronger, you're more efficient. It's a bad thing because then you begin to plateau. So when we talk about disruption, when we talk about disrupting ourselves, if you've ever felt like you were being disrupted in your business, that's a good thing. If you ever felt like the sales were going up and they have been consistently going up, and then they took a dip because you made an investment, it's a good thing. You've disrupted yourself. And as you get that regularity back, as you build that muscle back up, that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. And the next piece that I wanted to talk about is the superset. So supersets is when we are doing a weight and we rep it as many times as possible until we can't rep it anymore. And what happens is you then drop the weight, say 10 pounds. and you go again, as many reps as you can, and then you drop the weight again. And what you're doing is you are burning the muscle out. I mean, complete obliteration of the muscle. Because what you want to do is you want to train it to be able to just go. And you want to be able to keep form as you go. That's why you drop the weight. You do heavy as you can for the power, and then you keep dropping weight to train your mind that I can do more, I can keep form, and you are ABC, be it strong, powerful, whatever you're training the muscle to do. And this is important in business because sometimes you might, I don't want to say take a step back. It's like you got to go heavy. You got to go heavy. And when you go heavy, the goal is not to stop, but it's just to drop the weight and keep going. Drop the weight and keep going. Drop the weight and keep going. I'm not saying drop the investment. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let go of whatever you are holding on to. So I want this is an analogy, guys. This is an analogy. So when you're lifting heavy, you've got all of the old you trying to lift this new weight. When you drop weight, you're cutting out old habits. You're cutting out old things so you can lift more because you're lighter. So here's how I say it. When you do right, you feel light. When you do wrong, it feels long. So if you're lifting heavy and you've got all of these negative habits and all of these limiting beliefs and all of these character defects, it's going to feel like every rep is death. And it kind of is, right? You're dying inside. But when you drop the weight, what you're actually doing is you're saying, I don't need to eat that cheeseburger. I don't need that. And you lift more because you've lowered the weight. When you say, I don't need to watch TV tonight, like not that much, you lifting more weight, and all you're doing is you're subtracting all those different things, but you're continuing to lift. And what's interesting about it is you start out lifting heavy and you end up lifting low. But when you're only lifting 20 pounds and you do this right, those 20 pounds feel like 1,000. They feel like 1,000 pounds on the bar because you've just been lifting. So as I kind of wrap my piece up on the disruption side of the house and the isolation side of the house is this. I want to end with the isolation piece. When we bring so death to 2023, so to speak, like they say, all hail the king, this is death to 2023. The 2023 me is I'm going to leave him in 2023. So here's what I'm saying with the isolation piece. You have compound workouts that you can do, and then you have isolation workouts. So a compound workout could be something like a push-up because you're working shoulders, chest, core, all of these things. That's analogous or similar to you saying, I'm going to take my old habits, I'm going to take my new habits, I'm going to take my education, I'm going to take all of these things and I'm going to work them all together. And you might be able to lift some weight using all of these things together, but you're not concentrating on a particular muscle. You're using all of the muscles. And sometimes when you're trying to grow a particular muscle, like a sales muscle, a coaching muscle, a marketing muscle, sometimes you have to isolate it. Sometimes you have to put yourself on the bench press, incline the bench press, take all other muscles out of the equation and just lift on that particular muscle. And that's what really breeds that figure, that beauty that we like to see on physique. We like to see the cuts. We like to see the abs. We like to see the definition. And the definition oftentimes comes from repetition, deepening the impression, but also from you disrupting yourself, doing the reps and supersetting, getting it done.
My team is deep, aren't they? My team is deep. Guys, listen, when we get back, I'm going to synthesize what you just heard and kind of break it down a little bit into bite-sized pieces so you guys can get it and see how it all works together. We'll be right back. This is The Breakfast with the Brand. Let's grow.
I said Sean Rye East. I'm proud. I said Sean Rye East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire and heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Sean, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. I don't talk theory, I don't talk hyperbole, I don't talk opinion. Nothing I talk is anything but evidence-based.
During the G-Circle retreat in Atlanta, I had the pleasure and the honor of listening to Mr. Sean Rais. He will not only impact your organization, but he will elevate your team to another level.
When you change you, when you put you into the equation, the whole system is different. I guarantee you, you got the right thing. You are the right person. If you can present yourself in the best way possible, there's no negotiation.
His energy is infectious, and I have so many takeaways from the presentation that I can't wait to get started and implement them today to see the result.
Business is like a game of chess. It's not checkers. If you don't know how to lead with a personal brand, then you're losing the battle.
Everything about Sean's talk was fantastic. I mean, I got so much from it.
So he was really bringing fire and passion and just love and spirit to let everybody else know how do you become a leader amongst the leaders.
You hold the key in your hand. There is more power in this phone than there was that took the first man to the moon.
His energy, his dynamic information, gave a really great presentation.
I didn't ask for any money. I didn't have an offer. I had a heart to help people and meet them where they were at and find their need and fulfill it.
Sean is the bomb.
All right, guys. So watch this. The isolation piece. That's focus and concentration. The isolation piece is focus and concentration because you're not going to become a master of all trades at once. Simple. The analogy that I use for that is chasing 8 rabbits in the room. You're not going to catch any of them. Many of you are probably doing this right now. You're trying to build your brand. You're trying to build your business. You're also maintaining the relationship, trying to get better at that. You're trying to get your finances up. You're trying to save money and build your business at the same time. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. You're trying to grow your business and save money at the same time. So you're trying to cut expenses while growing your business. Like, it just doesn't work that way. That's like trying to get bigger and not eating. It's like trying to gain weight but not eating. It will never happen. You're going to wonder why you're getting lighter and lighter on the caloric deficit piece. That's why a lot of you are looking at your business like, why isn't it growing? Why isn't it growing? Why isn't it growing? But you're trying to hold back from feeding it. You're trying to hold back from feeding your business. If you want to get big, I mean huge, you have to eat a lot. That's it. You have to eat a lot. And then you have to do things in a well-defined professional manner. You got to work out. You got to eat clean. You got to get enough sleep. You got to drink enough water. These are things that you just must do if you want to get huge and not be deformed. So if you want your business to get huge, you have to pour resources into it consistently and consecutively. And one thing that Bobby was talking about was the person that's struggling and how each rep can feel like death, right? And the reason why each rep feels like death is because it's the old person lifting it. It's the old, now to bring in what Junior said, it's the old identity lifting the weight. So a lot of you have, and this comes from my psychology background, pardon me to go clinical for a moment, but a lot of you are holding on to negative recessive trauma. And what I like to unlock and find phenomenal pleasure in is turning your drama and trauma into commas and teaching you how to reframe your old situations and occurrences as opposed to locking into the identity of I'm the person that this happened to. We say what can happen for you as opposed to what happened to you. Really, Bobby? This is why I even came into this space. I came into the evidence-based coaching space is because counseling had a retrogressive perspective. Guys, we're going to get clinical for a moment. Is that okay? I really want to take you into 2024 with the most empowerment possible. So counseling had a retrogressive perspective it used the biopsychosocial model, nothing against the biopsychosocial model or Erickson. For those of you who know clinical, you know who I'm talking about. He came up with the biopsychosocial model, which basically said what happened to you as a reason for why you're in your present, what happened to you. And I realized that I was re-traumatizing people. So you might find yourself going to therapy and being re-traumatized when you walk through what happened to you when you were 14, how daddy walked out when you were 7, and how you got beat up by the bully in high school at 13. If you hold on to that identity, you will not be able to grow the huge, phenomenal business that you want. Because the 13-year-old that got beat up doesn't build huge, phenomenal businesses. They get beat up at 13. So if you're holding on to that identity, you're going to get beat up in business. If daddy walked out on you when you were 7 and you never got over it, then you're not going to build a phenomenal, huge business because you're the type of person holding on to the identity. You're the type of person that people leave. People walk out on you. So clients walk out on you and your teammates walk out on you and you can't depend on. You understand? So you need a new you to move into a new identity, to move into a new reality. You need a new identity. So you need to recraft that. You need to retool that. You need to revisit your origin brand story and unpack who you were, what did happen, accept it, and get over it. So you can move into a new identity. Because the 146-pound, the 146-pound identity, I guarantee you, is not curling 145 pounds. You have to shift the identity. And when you shift the identity, you shift the capability. When you reorient the identity, you shift the capability. You can't be the loser and the winner at the same time is what I'm trying to say to you. Please understand, you cannot hold on to the identity of the person who was the reason for a failed marriage. And you might very well be the reason why it failed. Okay, great. Accept it. Close the book, close the chapter on that book and move into the new book. Write a new book, write a new script, write a new reality. No longer accept the things that are from the past and only welcome the things that are in the new. See, the world is the same. Listen, we're all going to go to sleep December 31st, and we're going to wake up into the exact same world, January 1st. The only question is, will you be the same person? You see, I tell a story, guys, and I'm going to let everybody speak on this real quick, but I tell a story. I'm just a kid from Harlem who, let me tell you something. The kid from Harlem who I was would not have built the phenomenal business that I have. Because they continued to make bad decisions and go in the wrong way, and they were led by the coaches that we didn't have. You understand? So I had to get a new set of inputs to produce a new series of outputs. And this is what you're going to want to do if you want to move into 2024 like you've never seen success before. Like, I promise you, if you want to see a new 2024 with new successes, new opportunities, new realities, you have to shift your identity and shift your capabilities. Let go of the old, step into the new.
No, Sean, It's so interesting you say that. While you were speaking, I was thinking of this. There's this scene in X-Men where there's two of them, two of the the super guys. I can't remember the name,
I
but
love X-Men. Go ahead, tell me. I'll be able to tell you.
okay. So there's a scene where two guys, they're on a balcony and they're looking over at this. I think it's a fallen tower. It's some kind of fallen tower or some kind of long metallic tower. It looked like it fell or something. And then one of them is saying to the other one, I want you to move this with your mind. So the guy focuses. Now they both have powers, obviously, right? So the guy focuses on the tower and he stretches his hand forward, right? And he's trying to move the tower with his mind. He's supposed to be able to shift stuff with his mind. Okay.
Mhm.
And he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He tried, he struggled, and eventually he said, I just can't do this. This is like my powers have not matured enough to get to that point where I could do this. And then what I find so interesting, and it's so interesting because somebody shared this with me when I had the same conversation with them where I told them, I try not to focus on the past and, past events and struggles and pain, etc. And they said to me, they showed me that scene and they said, what do you notice? And when I looked at that scene, the other man that was standing there, he said to the guy, I want you to dig deep into your mind and I want you to think about who hurt you the most or think about the experience where you were hurt the most. And as he started to focus on that experience, he closed his mind, okay? He closed his mind and he started to see the scene where he was a little kid. And I think his parents got killed in a fire. And as he focused on that, he was able to channel the energy and the pain and the drive from that particular scene. And he was able to move the tower with his mind. And in that moment, what I realized was that we have to move forward, with our new identity. But there's still power in the pain. So pain equals power if you could channel that pain in the right way.
There you go.
Pain can equal power. So for me, and maybe for many other people as well, the drive comes from certain experiences that I had in the past where I was just different. It was a different situation for me. I could go into so many of them. But as you're listening to my voice right now, I want you to think about what are some experiences that you've had in the past that has driven you to success. So I know for Sean has spoken so many times about his experiences, growing up in the streets in Harlem, the kind of stuff that he, experienced as a kid. You've spoken about your name on the wall. You've spoken about so many things.
Yes,
and you've spoken about,
yes.
and I've personally heard you say that, experiences like this and many others are the reason why you do what you do, because a lot of the people that you grew up with, they don't have a voice for themselves.
Let me crystallize it. Let me crystallize it, Junior. Let me crystallize it. So I love what you're saying, bro. I love what you're saying. You got the last piece. Go ahead. You want to give it?
Yeah, let me just finish it off and then.
Okay.
So what I really want to convey to the audience is you have to now. Am I the same person from back then? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not that same person. However, I can get my inspiration and get the drive from it. And I just wanted to put that in there, Sean. I find it very interesting.
Oh, yes.
How our drive can come from the past experience. So it's like we have to be different people, but at the same time, like you can't forget what happened, right? You have to use what happened as a stepping stone to keep pushing you forward.
Very good. Very good. So what Junior's saying, and it's Professor X and Magneto. Those are the two people. Yeah, it's Professor X telling Magneto to go deep into his past, and his mother was murdered. And when he went back to that pain, it would propelled and pushed his power and took him to a completely another level. So what the few words that came to my mind was lead as a legend through the lesson. Lead as a legend through the lesson. When you stay stuck, and you should write that word down and underline it. When you stay stuck in the identity, you can't get past it. However, when you can leave the identity but retrieve the lesson, You can use the lesson to lead as a legend. That's the power that pushes you forward. So I wrote in the comments, I said, use what happened to you to fuel you. Use what happened to you to fuel you. And this is the whole unpacking of the origin brand story process that we use in Branded Like a Leader for you to turn your drama and your trauma into commas. So when I say close the chapter or close the book, I don't mean forget what happened. No, I mean leave the identity of the victim. Change that identity from the victim to victorious and keep the lesson that you learned and use that as the power and the mechanism and the means to move forward. So yes, sir, it was exactly what happened to me and exactly where I've been and exactly the things that I've seen that allowed me to pick up the torch and begin to move this movement forward. But I let go of the identity and I hold on to the new capability and the passion and the purpose. Oh, guys, if you don't have that, you're not going to go far at all. And you can't live in two places at one time. You can't live multidimensional. So you have to be able to leave one identity to pick up the new capability. It doesn't mean to turn your back or to, forget about your loved ones. No, do it because of them. And I guarantee, like Junior just said, when you tap into that fire, that drive, you'll close the biggest deals. You'll make the biggest quantum leap forward in your business. That's what I mean when I say add a zero, because it's a force multiplier. Fury, pain, and passion, force multipliers. Now we're talking about alchemy. And now we're really talking about being able to go from being a 5-figure earner now to being a 7-figure earner in 2024. All day.
Man, I'm getting excited over here. I'm getting excited because I never really get to talk about finance that much. But you all have laid the perfect foundation for me to make a very simple correlation, beautiful correlation that's going to help unlock finance for a lot of people, And I wrote down, so if you've been around the brand for any amount of time, we're innovative. We create words from time to time. We create things. We're creators and we're proud of it. So you all may know about personal brand leadership, something that Sean has brought together. What I started thinking about as I'm listening to exactly what we've been talking about is brand finance. Brand finance. And I'm about to break something down for you guys that I think is going to astronomically improve your understanding of finance in its totality. So a base definition, just a very basic definition for us to build off of, is finance is the assignment of values to assets. That's our base foundation. Now, everything else is going to be analogous, like a story. So what really happened, what your brand is, or how you can think about it, is its self-perception, so how you see yourself, and then a projection, how you impress this self-image upon others. So brand, just think of yourself or your business, right? How do I see my business? Okay, I see it this way. And then how do I impress this vision that I see of my business and of myself into the marketplace? When those two things are congruent, you have authenticity branding. You're authentically branding yourself, and you have impression management. You're moving into the space of positioning, right? You're positioning yourself in the marketplace for everyone else to perceive you the way you perceive yourself. Very important. Now, here's what's crucial. If you have a negative or low self-perception, there's no real way you can trick the marketplace into seeing you more valuably than you are, or that you see yourself. So I'll give you a little insight here. We call them market corrections. Okay. So a market correction happens when stock is overvalued. So the way that the people are positioning it, and I'm going to tie this all back together to you. So what happens in a market correction is a whole bunch of people start buying a particular stock. but the stock isn't really worth anything. So once the people start realizing that the stock isn't worth what they thought it was worth, they leave. And when they leave, someone's left holding the bag. Now let's stop there. Okay, let's stop right there. When you tie this back to you, what I'm saying is you can't cheat the system. You can't cheat self. Like, you are you. And if you have a self-perception and you put yourself out in the marketplace as being something that you're not, in the end, there will be a market correction. Meaning, in the end, someone or a group of someones are going to find out the truth. And when this group of someones finds out the truth, what happens in a market correction is such a large group of them leave at one time that the stock becomes worthless. And whoever's holding the bag goes into debt. So what happens if you do this wrong, you can brand yourself, but not really brand yourself. You can see yourself low and put yourself out there high, make all these investments, take out all these loans, not really do the inner work you need to do to truly see yourself as you need to see yourself so that your brand is authentic. And now you attract these people, but they're not really attracted to the real you. So when they find out who the real you are and the market correction hits, all of them leave and you're left with all the debt. So that's the same thing as a market correction. So now that we've got this brand piece, guys, I'm telling you, I'm teaching you finance. Like, this is real life finance. So when you do this and you understand it, let's talk about brand finance. So what finance is, which is so beautiful about what the brand does every morning, finance gives you the money you need that you don't have to acquire the capital you need to get the money that you need. Now, let me say that slightly differently, more plainly. If I wanted to build a hotel and I don't have the money to build a hotel, I need the materials, the workers, and all these other things. So where do I go? I go to a bank and I get financing. What financing is they're going to give me the money to purchase the capital, meaning the labor and the materials, so that I can build the asset. And as I build the asset, then I'll start to get money from the asset and I can pay back the finance.
Ooh-wee, let's go.
What you're getting here is brand financing.
Come on.
John is financing your brand in the sense that if you come here and you show up and you're consistent, he's giving you the tools you need, money, to go out into the marketplace and purchase the things you need so that you can then repay. And what happens is you grow, like you say, boom, I got one hotel off of financing, but you get the second and third hotel off of cash and equity, because now you're own, you own your own. So what you're really seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is brand finance. And if you show up and you build yourself and you let go of those old traits and you really lean in and you take control of your destiny and you say, this is me, I am the brand, you are the brand. When you take full ownership of that, then you can start taking full advantage of the financing that you're getting 6 days a week.
Come on now. Come on now. See, I just put it in the chat. Financial confidence. Financial confidence. This is when I say raise your price and people say, no, I can't do that. This is when I say 10K, 20K, and people say, oh my God, that's a huge amount of money. When realistically, it's not. Not at all. In some frames of reference, it's a huge amount of money. In the frame of reference that I'm trying to give you for 2024, it's gas money. It's gas money to get you where you're trying to go. It's a small amount of money. It's the beginning of anything. It is not the end and it is not the middle. It is the beginning of anything. Any serious investment starts at 5 figures. I need you to understand this to move into 2024 with the right mindset and the right expectations, because if you're a 5-figure player, then you're going to stay on 5 figures. When you become a 6-figure player, a 6-figure thinker, then you are kind of, you're growing past 5, but you're still stuck at 6 figures. When you start seeing $1 million as being the means, the tools, the resources to create legacy, now you're in the right headspace, right? There's no amount of money that should stop you from doing what needs to be done, hand over fist. So think of, I want to say this the right way. I see a huge mountain in front of me and I get excited. Some people see a huge mountain and they shrink. I gain wings because I'm like, okay, that's challenging, which means it's worthy of doing. It's worthy of the commitment. In 2024, I want you to scale more exciting mountains that can bring life to you, mountains that can give you excitement, give you encouragement, make you bigger than you actually appear to be. Because we are only as big as we see ourselves. We are only as big as we see ourselves. It's self-perception, it's self-awareness, it's self-regulation, it's emotional intelligence, and it's authenticity. That's what personal brand leadership is. And what Bobby's talking about with that brand finance, like it's financial confidence in the ability to see yourself as a 7, 8, multiple 7, multiple 8, 9, and 10-figure business person. This is the identity that you want to assume. And with the identity assumption, assuming the identity holds responsibilities. So now there's certain things that you have to do. And there's other things that you can no longer do. You can no longer make small investments in yourself, for God's sake. You understand? Like when it comes to my self-investment, my personal investment, the money that I invest in me, it has to be huge. It has to be monumental because it has to make lasting, monumental change. Huge change. Because you are your greatest asset. Your house is not your greatest asset. If you really break it down and put it on a P&L sheet, your house is a liability. Your car, when you buy it, it's a liability. The only way it's an asset is if you loan it out or you put someone in it and they pay for it and you keep the profit. That's when there's an asset. It's only an asset when it's making you money. So if your old idea of what happened to you when you were 14, 13 is not serving you to the highest degree, it is not an asset, it is a liability. The same thing with your investments. If they're not huge enough for you to see a huge return on yourself, which will turn into a huge return in the marketplace, I'm sorry to tell you, but your investment was too small to bring you a return or make you a profit. So it's a loss. And the quicker you just exit out and make a bigger investment, the safer you'll be for 2024.
You know, I wrote down something. Bobby said something that was so powerful, where he said that sometimes you have to shrink, you have to take away stuff. And I was thinking for myself and for many other people, what really makes the big difference? And I wrote Sean, I wrote out, cut out the fat.
Get lean.
Get lean. And not just, guys, not just physically lean. That's not what I'm talking about. What I found is that growth is often a process of removal rather than addition. But the impact is it multiplies. It doesn't add. So 1 + 1 is not 2. Okay? 2 + 1 is not 3. You know, it multiplies. But the process to get there is a process of removal. So ask yourself, like, what are some of the things that you do that you just don't need to be doing? And that includes like the actual activities that you do, but also the actual emotions and the actual thoughts and, you know, things that just don't serve you. Like fear, you know, like being stuck in the past, like Sean was saying, it's not an asset. Imagine what your life would look like if you were able to cut all of that stuff out. Like really just think about it. Like if you were able to cut, you know, self-doubt, cut, you know, the wrong emotion. Emotion is great, but using the wrong way is not. So cutting out the wrong emotion, cutting out self-doubt, lack of confidence, all of that, all that stuff that we talk about. Like, what would your life look like if you're able to, like, literally remove these things one after the other, and you start to get a lean mindset. So we talk about having a lean body. What about a lean mindset? I think on the last Breakfast with the Brand, I said that the shortest path between 2 points is a straight line. Well, it's the same way in your mind. Like, if you want to do something, the quickest way to do it is just to do it. Like, not get caught up in all the emotions that come in between. So for you heading into 2024, what are some of the things that you can cut out? And I know we're about to shut it down, so I'll pass it over to Bobby. But Sean, that's what's on my mind, like for myself. Because guys, I'm taking, like, while Sean and Bobby speaking, I'm taking notes. I wrote down a couple notes for myself, things that I'm gonna do today, right? So a lean mindset, a lean body, and you know what? You know what's so amazing, Sean? Once you get the lean mindset, for those of us who want it, we can get the lean body, we can get the physique.
It's a lot
Because-
easier.
Yeah, because the inside is a reflection of the outside is a reflection of the inside. So for me, as long as there's still fat, I still feel like there's some level of growth, not just externally, not just physically, but there's some part in my mind or some part internally that I have not tapped into, because there's still places that I can cut. Like, what else can I remove to get to where I want to go? And I want to leave this with you guys. So cut out the fat, both physically and also mentally.
Resource reallocation.
Powerful. Really briefly, what I would say would be something that I discovered this year. It's a reality check that you can take to the bank. I mean, you can take out cash with this thing. I call it the law of initial incentive. That's what I'm calling it right now. And what this is, or what I've discovered in life, is that everything, so to speak, worth doing gives you an incentive to begin, and it gives you rigor to finish. So, for example, procreation, great incentive to begin, but the rigor of raising a child is like 18 years. If you think about marriage, the incentive, the butterflies, the love, the happiness that you get from the person is great, but the melding of two human beings together that come from two different paths and have two different histories can be a very interesting experience. So one thing that I've learned this year that I think is really transformative is the law of initial incentive. Everything that you want looks good on the surface, and then there's a cost that far outweighs. It's the Pareto principle in reverse. That's what I call this law of initial incentive. When you see something that looks good, it's 20% excitement, 80% grind every time. Marriage looks good. She's fine. She's beautiful. She's lovely. 20% excitement, 80% grind. Oh, kids, they're lovely. They're beautiful. The way we bring them into the world is great. 20% excitement, 80% grind. And that's with wealth, that's with money, that's with everything. It's the Pareto principle in reverse. So if you see something that you like, just think of it in that way. Pareto principle in reverse. Like, okay, I like it. Do you like it enough to do 80% grind to get it? If you don't let the 20% excite you to the point that you find yourself bouncing around the 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, never getting 100, because you're defying the law of initial incentive.
Let's grow.